All right. Do you want to play through the Purcell?
Yeah.
So tell me some of the thoughts that you've been having about the Purcell, some of your approach to it lately, before you play through it.
So I've been trying to be more conscientious of the phrasing.
Cool. Great.
Because I think when I started to add in our conversations about musicality and just expression a little bit more into the piece, I was almost feeling like I was getting fatigued playing through it all the way with that sort of mindset to it.
Okay.
And so I would get to the last sections and just feel like it was really lackluster. So I think I've tried to sort of break it up a little bit more and play each almost individually as a piece a little bit.
Love it.
When I am practicing, because I think that helps me just sort of reset a little bit at the beginning of each phrase.
Awesome. Super smart. I love that approach.
So I think that's helped a little bit, but I still do sort of, depending on the day, will feel myself sort of tail off at the end, but we'll see.
Yeah. I think that's a great approach. And this piece, I think, works really well for that. It's almost
it has,
little tableaus.
Little phrases in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you can almost find different angles or shades.
Right, yeah.
Kind of frame that.
Yeah.
Frame
and
this.
I think the repeated phrasing was almost sort of I would get to this end and be like, okay, I've played this. I know how to do this part. And sort of just go through it without
okay.
being like, okay, how do I want to close out the piece? How do I want this phrase to sound different than when I played it before?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, in theory.
Well, and that's always the process is we want to have that very clear musical picture.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then there's the technical aspect of what we're doing, the physical aspects.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes those are two very distinct endeavors.
Yeah.
Right? We want ultimately to kind of combine it all into one whole that's greater than the sum of its parts, right? That's the goal. But along the way, it's good to kind of isolate. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And to step away from the musical and just look at some technical stuff like we've done with the breathing and fingerings and endurance. Yeah. Right? Great. Wonderful. Yeah. And then it's also equally helpful sometimes to step away from those and say, just music. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And make some musical decisions, what you're talking about with these kind of tableaus across. I love it. Those are musical decisions that you made probably not necessarily with the horn helping you.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you just made that as a musical decision. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm in a much better space thinking about how I want to approach it as a piece of music. Good. And now I just sort of need to layer on the actual playing to it. Perfect. Make it sound like I want it to.
That's the way to do it.
Okay.
I love it. You're on the right path.
Cool. So close.
Hey, no, don't worry about it. Hey, shake it off. Doesn't matter. That's okay. We're just in the process. This is our research lab here.
Oh, right. Yeah, the lab.
Yep. God, that was wild. That was awesome. Nice job, Aileen. Vastly better than the last time you played this for me.
Really?
This is amazing. Yeah. I'm starting to see this musical picture that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I think it is coming across.
It's like a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's the trick, is I think that inside of your mind, you have gone through some steps to clarify your thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
Then there's the step of, once we've clarified that thinking, how do I translate that out to my listener, right?
Yeah.
To get that across. And I'm getting more of that picture now than I have before.
Yeah.
So that is fantastic. Especially, I think this was one of my favorite sections right here. This tableau at B.
Yeah.
Was awesome. Really, really pretty. The way you shaped it, you kind of pushed it and then you pulled it.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the piece.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. You have a very clear... I mean, we all think differently sometimes. Colors or shapes or stories or people or words. Or, right? There's all kinds of... But whatever it is, there's something great that you have in your mind there. And it's really coming across. That was fantastic.
Cool.
So in that process, there's kind of at least those two distinct elements going on of what I'm thinking about it, and then the mechanisms of how I get that across.
Yeah.
Right? And in my experience, the latter of those two elements is where we benefit from exaggeration.
Okay.
I can't remember if I've asked you this before. Have you ever done like acting or stage work or anything like that?
A very long time ago.
Very long. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I played a very dramatic Vincent Van Gogh in the first grade.
Really?
Yeah, I had to cut off my own ear. It was like the whole thing.
You cut off your own ear?
Yeah.
You still got it in your memory box?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, wow. Early. So, that's goodness. That's in the presence of greatness.
Yeah.
All right. That's fantastic. When we do stage work, there's this really fascinating interaction and kind of dynamic that's created between us on the stage and our audience, where you learn how to kind of project and how to be a little bit bigger than you normally want to be,
right?
In order for it to read across that space,
right? Like subtlety does not translate well,
right? Yeah. I was in one film once. It was a small film. I'm gonna make it sound bigger than it actually was, but it was like a student production through Amblin Entertainment.
Okay.
And I was a soldier during World War II, and I got blown up. I had a death scene.
Oh wow.
It was awesome. I had a death scene. It was fantastic.
Did you have good makeup and stuff?
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. And helmet, rifle, the uniform, everything. It was a ton of fun. And so when you're on camera and you've got a camera like this close to you, and you can see this in film as an audience member, someone can kind of go like, right? They can just kind of raise an eyebrow, subtly turn their head, and it's like, oh, right? It like draws you in a lot, because for that medium, that translates, right? But I've also done a lot of stage acting, and like, when you're on stage, that exact same gesture of going like this means nothing to the audience.
Yeah.
It means absolutely nothing to them, right? When they're 50 or 100 feet away, severe lighting, all this kind of stuff.
Multiple people on the stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When you have a camera, you can say, look at exactly
I'm
this.
supposed to be looking at this person. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you have a whole stage, you pick and choose, right? So you can miss the smallest thing. And so in either case, whether I'm on camera or on stage, in my mind, I'm thinking the same thing, right? I'm thinking, well, I want to kind of get this kind of moment across, right? But I have to understand the medium and how my audience how that's going to translate. So in my mind, I have a clear picture of the emotional gesture I want to make, right? But then I have to, that second element, right, of like, but now how do I get that to my audience? How do I deliver that?
Yeah.
Right? So on stage, if I want the equivalent of that same kind of emotional gesture, then I have to do something like, or something, right? I have to be suddenly way more dramatic than I would think to be in my mind.
Right.
Like, well, in my mind, I'm not thinking of, I don't want to be that dramatic.
Yeah.
But I have to know the context that I'm in, right? My delivery mechanisms. Playing horn, I think, is much more akin to stage acting than it is to film acting.
Okay.
Film acting is more like pop singers or like sometimes studio work, right? Because we have microphones like right here.
Yeah.
And so it picks up that subtlety, and they can mix stuff, right?
Yeah.
Just like in film. But on stage, there's that distance, right? And as horn players, that's generally the context that we inhabit, right? We tend to inhabit a space where we've got some distance between us and the listener, so just some physical distance, right? And like we've talked about before, we play an instrument that is 100% reflected sound.
Yeah.
So that means that adds another layer of distance, right? Because it's got to bounce off of whatever I've got going on back here, blah, 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 and then survive all of that to make it to my listeners' ears, right? So if I'm too subtle right here, in my mind, I know what I'm trying to say, but if I'm enacting that too subtly, that's going to die through all that reflection all the way out before it reaches the audience, right? So I need to sound to myself very exaggerated, right here in the bell, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe even like uncomfortably exaggerated. But then when you listen out there, it's just going to be perfect, right? It's going to bounce all around and mix out just right.
Yeah.
So let's start with your favorite section here, this tableau at B, okay? Because you did this so beautifully, and it's awesome, awesome, awesome. What I want you to do is play just that fermata. And I want you to play it in the most exaggerated way that you can. Okay? And just see what happens. Again, this is a research lab, right?
Yeah.
We're just throwing information and experiments out there. Let's see what shakes out, and we'll figure it out. But I want you to play this section with as much exaggeration, as much stage makeup as you possibly can. Let's just see what happens. Is that fine with a PH? Because that makes a difference.
I don't think that felt as insane as it felt to me in my head. Sounded as insane as it felt to me in my head.
Right, interesting contrast, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah?
I really did.
Okay.
So much more of the detail that you have in your head came across to me now.
Okay.
Like the way that you really leaned into this.
Right.
Da. I didn't catch that the first time.
Okay.
Right? So that's one example of now that you felt like, fine, you asked for a lot, I'm going to give you a lot. To me, I was like, oh, there it is, I get it now.
Okay.
Right? I didn't feel like, whoa!
Too much.
Just relax. You know, like that's not how it came across.
Yeah.
It just came across just right.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. Quick question. Here at the beginning of that line after B, the C sharps.
Yeah.
How do you want to finger them? Because you can finger them that way.
Yeah.
That works. It's fine. Traditionally, they're fingered. Do you know how the traditional fingering is there?
Traditionally, they are fingered as just one. No, that's how I'm fingering them.
So, trigger one.
Right? Trigger one.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Trigger 2-3 is another good option.
I've never fingered a C sharp that way.
Are you serious?
I really don't think
that's
I've ever
fine.
done
I mean, I'm not saying that like as a bad thing. It's just that's how it's traditionally done, but that's fine. So the thing is, either way you go, that's a tricky note on the horn, because this fingering trigger 2-3
is really
is gonna be a little more stable, but it's gonna sit a little sharp because we've got multiple fingers down, right?
Yeah. So the jump from C sharp to D will be a little like skinnier.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
But trigger 1 also works. It's just what that's going to be is that's going to be a 7th overtone.
Yeah.
So it's going to want to be just a little bit flat.
Okay.
Right. So either way, we kind of have to compromise. Yeah. C sharp is not the best note on our instrument. Okay. We always kind of have to kind of talk with it and reason and negotiate it with it. So either one works. I just wanted to clarify your thinking on that. Either one's fine with me. I would say just make.
Try trigger 2-3 and see how that feels.
Okay.
Because trigger 1 is like, well,
just like that.
It's
okay.
Sketchy. It's a sketchy note.
No, I get it. Your face definitely captures the feeling of that note. Absolutely. So either one, just make a decision.
Okay.
And then just kind of stick with it, and then if you don't like it, then make the decision to try the other one and see if it's better.
Okay.
But you're gonna try the trigger 2-3 for now.
2-3, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and start at B one more time. Play through this one more time, trying the trigger 2-3 for those C sharps there. Can you make it even more exaggerated?
Yes. What aspects of it? I'll tell you maybe what I was thinking about when I was thinking about exaggerating the first time.
Yeah, what were you thinking?
I was thinking about the groupings of the notes with the slurs.
Okay, cool.
Which was definitely more pronounced here. Mm-hmm. And then I was thinking about the retard at the end.
Yeah.
Those were like the two things that were in my head.
Those came across really, really well. And I loved it.
And then I didn't really know what to exaggerate in this first part.
Okay, well, so this is part of the interesting cycle to me of going through this, is that we help to kind of clarify our own thinking.
Yeah.
Right? When we're like, okay, well, I go through the first step of kind of thinking in my own mind, oh, I kind of want, like you said, here are a couple things. I want to lean into the slurred groupings and the retard at the end. Great. So then I try to exaggerate that. But then in exaggerating it, I'm like, but what am I doing with the first half?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to clarify my thinking some more and make some decisions so that I can exaggerate those decisions, which will maybe help lead me to more decisions that need to be made. Right? So this is, in my opinion, this is one of the fun parts of this cycle. Is that it spins us upward on it, so that as we are seeking to exaggerate, when we come to a point where we're like, I don't have anything to exaggerate here.
What am I doing?
Right, and now we have a question to answer, right?
Yeah.
Now we have some more information in our research lab. They're like, oh, what can I do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Now we can workshop it, we can figure some stuff out. Mm-hmm. And, it's kind of a self-feeding cycle, right? So go ahead and play through it one more time. If you don't have anything specific that you're trying, anything additionally specific that you're trying to exaggerate this time through, that's okay. Just kind of let that be.
Okay.
For the observation of like, oh yeah, I didn't really do anything with whatever, with that note or something.
Okay.
Right? You're okay. Nice. Yeah, that's great. And honestly, I think from a certain point of view, and I really mean this, I think it's a good thing that you messed up. Do you know why?
Why?
Because you're putting your bandwidth on a new place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're thinking about a new aspect of your playing, a new thing to try out. So your bandwidth goes there instead of onto the fingering.
Yeah.
I think that's great, actually.
Okay.
Because you're putting your bandwidth on somewhere new that's pushing your capability.
Yeah.
Right? That was great. How'd the C sharps feel?
Good. It felt like a different note.
Okay. In a good way. It sounded really stable.
Cool.
Sounded great.
Okay.
Okay, so this last thing I'll say, and then we'll look at some Mirsch. Even the first half of this tableau here at B, even if you feel like I don't really have anything to exaggerate, like very specifically, like slurring or tempo or something, the very fact that you are trying to live here now is its own thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've now added, that's its own element.
Mm-hmm.
This slur sounds much more successful going up to the E because you're out here, right? Like we were talking about when we're breathing, I like to think, okay, we don't want to breathe to our throat. We don't want to breathe to our shoulders.
Yeah.
We want to breathe at very least at our diaphragm, if not beyond it.
Yeah.
Right? Dropping that diaphragm to the floor.
Yeah.
We want to breathe beyond the diaphragm, right? Well, when we turn that process around, we want to make sure that we're not just blowing to our throat, right? It's not getting stuck there.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure we're not just blowing to our tongue, and we're not even just blowing to the mouthpiece, right? We're not even just blowing there. We want to blow through and past the horn, right?
Yeah.
We breathe in this way, and then we blow out that way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get stuck here.
Yeah.
Right? Where we breathe here, we blow there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's like our whole range of motion.
Yeah.
That would be like going to the play or something and watching someone up on stage and they're like, to be or not to be? That's the question. Right?
Yeah.
And that's like all they do. As an audience member sitting 75 feet away from that, I'm like, what's going on right now?
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't draw me in, it doesn't gauge.
Yeah.
If anything, it actually kind of steps on the moment because we're just, right?
Yeah.
We're just right here. But when we breathe in with that purpose, and then we blow out with that purpose, it's naturally just going to infuse our playing with interest, with a better quality of sound. And then technically, a lot of things kind of solve themselves. Going up to an E, well, there it is.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to live here now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we want to get into that habit, that we want to get out of this little space, especially when we have a stand in music. If you can't, there's one of the reasons why I think it's good to memorize stuff, if you can. It's not good for everybody, and it's not good for every context. Like, I don't think it's a rule, or you should always memorize everything. But every once in a while, I think it's a good exercise to go through. Even if you just memorize like 3 measures, you know, a dozen notes. And then you physically move the stand over here.
Yeah.
And if you want to even stand up, great. But at least just to get that stand out of your vision so that your vision is like, oh, there's a room here.
Yeah. I'm playing to the room, not to my stand.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes I'll even like to put my eyes up in the corner of the room and just to get that feeling of projection, right?
Yeah.
So I breathe down to the floor, and then I play to the corner of the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because now we're just inhabiting a different place.
Yeah.
Even if there's not any particular thing I'm trying to exaggerate, I'm just living more exaggeratedly.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And I heard that this last time here at B, it was just like, oh, this is nice. It just kind of like puts me on the edge of my seat as the listener, just kind of like, oh, there's something to see here. She's giving me something to really latch onto and listen to now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that kind of, we breathe past the diaphragm and we blow past the horn.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice job. You've brought this such a long ways.
Thanks.
I love it. This is a great piece for you.